Hello my cupcakes and welcome back to my channel. The day has finally come. It is here, the updated eyebrow routine slash tutorial. I just want to say thank you so much for patiently waiting for this video, and I'm so sorry that it took so long. Now I just want to quickly mention that I don't believe there is a certain rule and certain way to do your brows. I think it all depends on your facial structure, your preference, your personality, and your hair color, your skin tone, whatever it is. I don't believe that there is an exact one way to do your brows. I want this video to be educational, but I also want to let you guys know that this is just the way I do my brows and my current routine. So if you are inspired by the way I do my brows and you like the way I do it, then, you know, by all means, this video is for you. If we don't have the exact same brow shape or color or anything else above, that's okay. It's your brows versus my brows, and this is how I just do my brows. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I do have to thank my parents for giving me hair on my brows. Hence the reason why I choose to do it more of a natural way, in my opinion. So now with all of that out of the way, let's jump right into the video. Alright, I brought you guys a little closer so you guys can see exactly what I do. So the general rule of filling in your brows is how you frame your brows according to your structure. And the number one step that people tell you to do is line it with the outer flare of your nostril. When it comes to starting out your inner frame of your brows, I tend to go a little bit more in. As you can see, my hair grows a bit more towards here, and I just leave that. I don't pluck it out because I generally like it to be a little bit closer. Back when I was training, I learned a lot about illusions when it comes to makeup and perception, and I was taught that when your inner corner of your brows are closer, your nose is going to appear a lot smaller and slimmer, because now I don't know if you guys can see it well on camera, but this is generally where my natural shadow is and where my natural structure is. But to create the illusion of a slimmer nose, I generally like to bring my inner corners a bit closer so that when I do contour, I can start from here and it'll create the illusion of a slimmer nose bridge. Now for grooming your brows, I'm not gonna get into too much detail of how you should be doing it, but sometimes when I do need to take care and clean up some of the areas, I just grab my tweezer and I pick out whatever I think is needed to just clean up. On top of that, I sometimes do need to trim my brows because they do tend to grow pretty long actually, and they grow downwards because that's how I've shaped it, and that's the natural way my brows grow. Now if you don't have a spoolie to use to brush out your brows, the brow wiz I use from Anastasia Beverly Hills actually has a side that includes a spoolie, which helps me kind of brush out my brows, and that's generally what I use. So whenever I do need to trim, I just kind of brush it upwards here and then brush it towards the growth direction, and whatever that's passing through the line, I just kind of trim that away. And the one I use is, I think I just picked this up from Korea. I do have one from Anastasia Beverly Hills as well, but this one seems to work fine, and it's slightly slanted if you guys can see, so that does help me kind of hold a grip. So I'm just going to trim a little bit like that. Even if you don't feel like you have enough hair to brush, you should still brush it out because it really does make a difference. Now when it comes to order, I usually like to do my foundation first before I do my brows, because if I were to do my brows first and then I layered foundation on top, I would have foundation all over my eyes, especially the way I like to blend my foundation. So just to save myself the trip of cleaning it up and doing it over again, I just do my foundation first and then my brows. Now to fill in my brows, I like to use two products, and I know it sounds like a lot, but it's so fast and easy for me that I don't really mind it. So the first step is to fill in your brows, and I personally like to do it natural as possible. And the product that I use is Anastasia's Brow Powder Duo in Caramel. And the brush that I usually like to use is by Morphe, and this is the E11 brush. It's more of a thicker angled brush. This is a NARS brush that I used to use back when I used to use brow pomades, but now I usually like to use powders, so this seems to do a better job when it comes to filling it in a lot faster. It does save me a lot of time. And on top of that, because I don't need the precise detailed line, I don't need to use this one necessarily anymore. So I'm going to pick up the lighter shade right here. And I don't generally start all the way from the inner corner. I usually like to start where the arch is first. And I generally like to fill it in at the lower area first because I don't want to go anywhere below that. And now with whatever I have left over, I'm just going to go and fill in the inner corner a little bit, following my natural line, and then just fill in the rest. Now it looks like I'm like shading back and forth, but I'm actually creating very light and fast strokes going to the direction of where my brow grows. I usually don't like to put too much pressure on the inner corner. I like to do it in very light strokes with a very light hand so that it has a slight fade that you see going on right there. Now going in with the darker shade right there, I'm going to fill in the outer corner and kind of extend it outwards a little. Again, there's a little line that you are supposed to follow, which is the tip of your eyebrows should be matching the tip of your eyes and then matching it to the corner of your lips. So that's the general line that you should be following. And I usually like to bring my eyeliner all the way out, so this is the correct angle for me. Now it's okay if it looks a little patchy and uneven because that's why I use the Brow Wiz for. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same to the other eyebrow. The way you angle your brows is also really important. When I usually fill in this area, I like to flatten and lay my eyebrow brush this way. But when I'm doing the tail of my brows, I like to lift it up and go this way so that I'm utilizing the shape of the brow or the brush. Now one way that I find helpful to see if your brows are even is to place your brow brush or any kind of brush that you have and just kind of settle it down here, starting from where the arch starts to match to the other side. And if it's pretty even and it lays down flat straight, that means your brows are even. Now don't worry if they don't look identical because your brows are not supposed to be twins. They can be sisters, they can be brothers, they can be cousins. Maybe not cousins because it's a little too far apart, but within the family, that's okay. Alright, now once I'm pretty satisfied with how everything is filled in, I'm going to go back with my Anastasia Brow Wiz, and the one I'm using is also in Caramel. Now when I filled it in with the brow powder, it kind of gave it a more even look, but you can still see those little bald patches that I have. So that's what I like to use the Brow Wiz for, to just kind of mimic the brow hair. And I usually just like to do the same thing, the same motion that I do with the brush. This is my little concern area right here because that part just never decided to grow out. I don't know why. I'm extending my brows here and it makes it look a lot more natural and even this way. So you see all of those little patches filled in nice and it looks natural. It doesn't look like I tried too hard to fill it in. Now I'm going to do the same to the other side. Like that. And I usually don't bring in my brow pencil all the way in, but if I feel like there's too much of a drastic fade here, then I just very, very lightly bring it in here just to kind of clean up some areas. Now if I were to just go out somewhere really quick and I just want to fill in my brows, I would probably just leave it like this. But on the days where I know I'm going to be wearing makeup all day and I want my brows to stay on fleek all day, that's when I usually like to set my brows with a brow setter or a brow gel. And the one I'm going to use today is by Benefit, and it's their 24-hour brow setter. I've been using this for the past 2 weeks and I've been loving it. loving it, and it just, your brows stay so nice and clean. It doesn't give off any other color. It's clear and it's invisible. It just kind of sets exactly however you want it to, and it doesn't go anywhere until you pretty much take it off. Now, if you're satisfied with how everything looks right now, you can finish right here. But there are 2 extra steps you can take to make your brows look even more precise and cleaner and whatnot. One thing that I actually like to do is grab my brush that I use to set my under eyes, and I usually like to just kind of brush it out here so that the color is all even everywhere. And the brush I'm using is MORPHE E48. And with the residue that's left on the brush, it gives me the perfect amount to just kind of brush everything out. This also helps my brows to look a bit more ashy than how warm it looked earlier. And I feel like that gives me the perfect amount of both warmth and cool tone into my eyebrows. One extra step you can take, and I only do this if I know I'm gonna be wearing like a smoky eye, especially when I'm wearing like an eye primer. I usually like to grab my concealer brush or whatever brush I usually use to prime my eyelids, and I clean up my brows underneath here, underneath the brow bone, so that it looks a little bit more cleaner and sharper. The brush I'm using is a Sigma Concealer F75 brush. And the 2 sharp edges on this brush gives me that perfect angle to clean up underneath my brow bone. Alright, I went ahead and contoured my nose just so you guys can see the whole look. I will have a separate contouring video, or how I usually like to contour my face and nose and everywhere else, in a separate video so that this isn't too long of a video. Alright guys, that completes my current eyebrow routine video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope this helps a lot of you that's been telling me how we have the similar eyebrow shape and color and everything, and you really want to know how I do it so you can recreate it. If you guys have any other requests, please leave it in the comments down below. Other than that, don't forget to follow me on all of my other social media handles, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!